So hi everybody, welcome back to SUMO Community Call. Today we're meeting at our original schedule, but we'll talk about it more later. Let me say hi because I remember I put one shout out for John West, who is a new community member. So if you come across him or seen if he reach out to you about asking for some pointers or anything, please help him. Um, and yeah, I see that. I think it's not only John West who's been reaching out to our matrix room to ask for how to contribute and stuff. So please help people who are reaching out to our channels. Some also reach out in our community forum. So please help them or point them to me if you don't have the time to walk them through. So yeah, today we have a special guest from the Hubs team, who is Elgin, and Elgin is going to give us some introduction of Hubs because last week, I believe last week, right? On the 11th of November, we just added a new forum for Hubs. But this is not the first time we collaborated with the team because last year, I believe in the end of last year, around the same timing as right now, we also add Hubs KB articles. So we hosted KB articles for Hubs since last year, basically, but we decided to also open up a new forum for Hubs just recently. So if you want to know more about Hubs, Elgin is going to take us through Hubs introduction and how you can actually use Hubs. So Elgin, the Zoom room is yours.
Wonderful. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you all. There are some familiar faces in the crowd, although I want to say faces, except for I've met these people in VR or in Hubs before. So I have never actually seen real faces on some of these people. But anyways, it is really great to see you folks. I'm super happy to be here to be sharing a little bit about Hubs. Just like Kiki mentioned, we've had articles on SUMO for the last year or so, or for a little while, but we are now opening up the ability to ask questions and stuff. So I wanted to come in here, share a little bit about Hubs with you. So does that sound okay? I've got a little presentation to share, but I have to admit that it might take me a second to get this up and loaded because I do all my presentations in Hubs normally. So I'm super comfortable working there, not so much in Zoom. So just 1 second while I get everything sharing. Okay, I'll just do share of my desktop and then I'm going to go into presentation mode for this. Awesome. So y'all should, oh, you can see my screen, right? Yes. And is it giving you the Zoom camera feed of everyone else while I'm in this, or is it just my screen? Okay, perfect. Oh my gosh. I clearly spend all my time meeting in Hubs and no time meeting in Zoom. So thank you. So my name again is Elgin Skye McLaren. If you've got any follow-up questions, you can reach me at emclaren@mozilla.com. So I work as the community manager for Mozilla Hubs, and it is the best job because I spend a lot of time going into shared virtual spaces and hearing about all the cool work that people are doing. And what we're going to cover today in this very short, it'll be a 10 to 15 minute long introduction. It'll just be sort of an intro to Hubs, what it can do. I'm going to talk a little bit about support for Hubs, what we have right now, and how we kind of see it going forward. Point you in the direction of some resources, and then we'll have a Q&A. So Hubs is, if you have not come across it before, it's an open source product by Mozilla. And what it lets you do is create shared virtual spaces. You will hear people talking about how it's a social VR platform. This is a language that we can use, but we tend to not call it social VR because we have a lot of people who come in, create these nice 3D spaces, and you can go into them with your friends. So there's a few related products that might come up. I'm going to talk about them a little bit more in this presentation, but I just wanted to clarify that they're sort of unique things, but they're related. So the first is Hubs, which is the kind of core free product, which you go to hubs.mozilla.com to use. Then there's a platform called Spoke, which is used for creating environments and like decorating and building worlds. And then there's Hubs Cloud, which lets you self-host your own version of the Hubs code. I'll go into that in a little bit more detail in a little bit, but I just wanted to make sure that you folks knew that there was like 3 different products. So to get started with Hubs, and you don't have to do this, I just wanted to show you how easy it is to get started. You just go to hubs.mozilla.com, you'll see a big, big pink button. If you just press that, then you will instantly have your own room. And in this room, you can then click this big pink share button to be able to invite your friends in there and be able to hang out with them in this kind of 3D environment. So it's like 3 clicks and you're in and you've got your own private space. So some of the advantages of Hubs versus other sort of platforms that allow you to interface with people in 3D environments are that it runs in a web browser. You don't have to install anything or download anything. It should work right out of the box. Your rooms are private. So in some of the other kind of apps in like the social VR space, certainly like VR chat is one that people have maybe heard of, or Second Life as well. Like they're often, you go into these spaces and you often will meet with strangers and you'll be in like this like big kind of world and you can wander around to different areas and meet different people. Hubs rooms are not designed to be like going out to meet with, thousands and thousands of different strangers in these kind of strange places. They're meant to be sort of your private room that you can invite other people to. You certainly could share them with other people if you wanted to, but it's really meant to be used with your own community, people that you know. And so they're meant to be kind of like these safe spaces for you. And the links are persistent. So if you create a room, you can always go back to it later. And that's a question that we get quite often about Hubs rooms. So you can have like your own private like hangout space on the web that you can go back to anytime you want. So the other thing that's really good about Hubs is that it works across different devices. And that's like a benefit of running in the web browser. So any device, and I've got like a little asterisk there because it's like any device that has a web browser should be able to get in. Although, there are some restrictions. So it does work on VR headsets. So you can get in on an Oculus Quest if you've got one, or if you've got a wired in headset. It works on desktop computers and it works on mobile phones. Some of the limitations that come up though is that like, if your room is filled with like a lot of different 3D objects, they can be very taxing on your system. So some devices, so for example, standalone VR headsets, so ones that don't connect to a computer, or mobile phones, they don't have as much processing power. So they might sort of struggle when you try to go into a really busy room that maybe has 25 to 50 people in it. But typically, if a room has been well designed and it's not loaded up with individuals sharing videos and MP3s and stuff, it should work across most devices. Another little caveat that I'll add here too is that iPhone, we do have some issues on iPhone in that if you try to get in using Firefox or Chrome on an iPhone, they've actually disabled, because of the closed ecosystem of Apple, they've disabled like mic access for apps that are sold through the App Store that access the browser. And so what that means is that basically we don't have access to certain features like the microphone on Firefox and Chrome on iPhone. So for these particular kind of browser cases, you do need to use Safari on like an iPad or iPhone. So again, this is why I put the little asterisks, and I'm mostly mentioning this too because this is the kind of question that people might ask. Like, why isn't this loading on my iPhone on Firefox? It's because like it just can't be done. So we'll provide you with more text to be able to share with people, but wanted to give a heads up about that. And it's super fun. I really like working in these rooms. It's super playful. My team, I'd been working with them for about 4 months before I ever had like a Zoom or face-to-face interaction with everyone on our team. And like, we just have these really playful meetings where we dress up in weird avatars and bring in gifts. And we hear it from our community all the time too, that it's just a really playful way to get together. So a few advantages to it versus doing like a traditional Zoom call or something like this is there's no webcam required. So if you folks are in a lot of meetings these days on Zoom, you know that you've always got to be worried about what's in the background, how you look and whatnot. You don't have to do that in Hubs. You can just roll out of bed and be inside of a space. It also allows you to sort of protect your privacy as well if you don't want to be visible to other folks. And you can also customize your avatar. You can choose how you want to represent yourself. We have a bunch of like featured ones and ones shared by the community. But if you're a 3D modeler, you can create your own and be a totally customized version of yourself inside of Hubs. There's spatialized audio. So this is one of the things that makes it really special, I think, compared to platforms like Zoom. So you're in this really large environment, and if you are standing closer to someone, they'll be louder. And if you're farther away, they'll be quieter. And so that means that you can have interactions that are a little bit more similar to kind of what you would have if you were meeting with people in the real world. Like by that, what I mean is that, you know, you could have a conversation, you could have a big breakout group with 20 people, or like you could all be chatting. But then if you wanted to kind of have side conversations, if you wanted to go into breakout groups of smaller numbers of people, you just have to move to another side of the space. And while you can do that on video chat platforms in these like formal breakout rooms, it's a little bit less fluid, and it also means that you can't still hear kind of what other people are talking about. And quite often in meetings, I'll overhear a conversation. I'll be like, oh, I've heard them talking about something I want to chime in on, so I'll kind of wander over to them. And then you can also import media from across the web. So because it's web-based, you can really easily copy and paste objects into the room from places online. You can drag and drop things from your desktop. You can bring in PDF files, images, videos, 3D models. And if you did want to share your screen, you still can. There is a screen sharing and a webcam feature as well. And here I've got a little screenshot of Spoke in the lower right-hand corner. So once again, Spoke is our world editing tool. So Hubs is for like actually getting together and socializing with people. You can drag in a few objects if you want to, but if you wanted to make your own like custom environment, Spoke would be best to build with, because it's kind of like, I want to say Blender, but like, you know, other sorts of like 3D modeling tools, or like even 2D modeling tools, where you can be really fine-tuned about like, oh, I want this position like right in the center, or, you know, you've got more fine-tuned control over where things are. And then the last really big advantage, I think, is privacy. So it's a Mozilla product. We don't do a ton of tracking on people. In fact, we keep it very, very minimal. And in fact, if you didn't want to run, like if you didn't want to have your meeting on hubs.mozilla.com, if you really were concerned about your user privacy, you can actually self-host your own version of Hubs. And so this is where Hubs Cloud comes in. So Hubs Cloud lets you on AWS really easily, with just like a few clicks of the button, take all of the open source components that Hubs is created out of, because everything in Hubs is open source. You could for sure set it up on your own local environment. However, that would be really finicky and it'd be hard to keep up to date. What Hubs Cloud does is you can go to AWS, pick out a few different server configuration settings, and then host your own version of Hubs on your AWS server. And then you control the flow of data through there, and you can also customize it. There's a few other advantages that are mentioned here. It allows you to have registered users. You can have access to the code if you want to do deep customizations. You folks will not have to worry about this, because Hubs Cloud troubleshooting is going to be taken care of mostly through another platform, which we'll talk about shortly. I'm just going to pause for 1 second here. At this point, does anyone have any questions, concerns? Okay, perfect. If you do, please don't hesitate. You can always chime in. And there's lots of cool things going on in Hubs. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the work that people in the community are doing to show you sort of the diverse uses that this kind of weird and crazy platform that I'm working on has been used for. So it's being used for education. So this is a photo of folks doing a tour of a skull inside of Hubs. So what this educator is doing is for physiology classes and for teaching students about anatomy. What they've done is created this like giant size blow up of different parts of the body, and then the class can go through and like mark it up with the different tendons and like kind of where things connect between the different parts of the model. which is obviously something that you couldn't do if you didn't have a 3D virtual space to wander through. Your school is not going to build a giant skull for you to wander around as a class. Maybe, but it would take a lot of space. So this work is being done at NYU at the moment. We've seen a ton of personalized galleries. So these are some of the most fun ones. I think they're really fun to explore. So this is student work from the Carson Center at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. So what they did was, for their final project, because they were obviously not able to get together for their classes at the end of the spring semester, what they did was they made this kind of virtual representation of their school, and they all decorated their different spots to kind of match the coursework and show the progression that their work had gone through over time. And what was neat about this showcase that they built was that it's going to live on forever. So unlike a showcase where people have to go into like the university itself to like explore, you know, these people can keep it in their portfolio and go back to it any time. This was another cool VR gallery that was created by a group called REM5 VR for Good. And I just wanted to show it because I think the pictures look really nice. They did this really simple trick that makes it look so much more realistic than some of the other galleries that I've seen. So they've slightly raised the images off the wall. They've like put it onto a 3D block, and it makes it look like a canvas, which when I saw it, it like blew my mind. It was such a simple little trick, but it looked really cool. Another really cool example of a gallery that I'm not going to go into is apartposters.com, but if you get a chance, this lives on forever. And this was a really highly customized version of Hubs that was used to showcase some art. We're seeing it used a lot for team meetings. So this is the Wall Street Journal has been using it. And then of course, events and conferences, getting people, like times when people want to get together. It is not necessarily the best platform if you wanted to get like 1,000 people into a room, for example. But if you did want to do small breakout groups and stuff, Hubs is perfect. So you can hold about 25 people in a Hubs room. This is another question that might come up. A Hubs room can hold about 25 people. It can go up to 50, but you're going to have performance issues for people who are on lower end devices once you go above 25. So we recommend keeping the cap at 25. So it's perfect for like breakout groups at conferences, demo booth, poster sessions, etc. So this is the Neutrino 2020 conference and the Singularity U Summit. We've also seen people doing like windsurfing classes inside of Hubs, which I would not have expected, but it worked. They were able to do it. So I wanted to share this photo because I just think it's so fun. So they learned about the different parts of the windsurf and windsurfing board. I don't know what that's called, but they showed like how to use it and like how you should stand at it, and then went through videos and different sorts of learning stuff. So all this is to say, Hubs is really cool, and it's become very popular in the last little while, especially with COVID, more things moving online. And previously, when we started off as like an emerging technologies group, we had a Discord channel. We still have the Discord channel, and that's where we provided all of the support. But we've seen exponential growth in the last little while, and we're just swamped, inundated with the number of requests people are having, and like often questions that were, you know, kind of repeat, like the basic ones were often coming up kind of again and again and again, maybe in slightly different permutations. So one thing we did was we built GitHub discussions, which is still something that we're using. But what we're hoping to do at the moment, because Discord also, it's not built for doing support. We're really hoping to be able to work with you folks to provide more of the general support for Hubs through Support Mozilla. So we get kind of two different types of questions from people, or like two different types of asks for help. There's like general support, so people who just want to run events in Hubs and like have questions about how the platform works. And then we of course have like really deep technical support, like, you know, where do I find this component to do something really specific? So we're going to be sending the more general support questions to the Support Mozilla group. There is some articles there as well at the moment, which will answer a lot of the basics, but then people are going to be able to ask questions at the moment. So I've got some, you're not supposed to be able to answer them right now. I've got resources to point you folks to. And then of course, if people have the more complex questions, that's going to be fielded to GitHub discussions. So you folks won't have to be dealing with that. We have resources available online. So we've got a documentation page. So our documentation I've linked here at the top. And in that, there's also an FAQ and a troubleshooting page, which you folks will have access to, and you can also do a search. And so that's where we cover a lot of the basics of kind of how Hubs works and like the questions that come up again and again and again. GitHub discussions still exist, more for the technical stuff. Discord still exists in the fact that it's like an archive and our community still chats there. But if you did want to do any sort of like above and beyond research into like figuring out an issue, most of the common questions have already been answered in Discord. But again, we're moving away from it because it's just not built for support. It's not easily searched. And there's no threading either for the discussion. So you end up having like someone asking a question and then someone asks another question and then the answers are kind of mixed up with each other. All this is to say too, that I'm super excited to be working with you folks. I'm so happy to have the support of the support team. And I think this is really gonna let our dev team kind of focus a little bit more on our work and less on answering kind of these straightforward questions. Now, of course, there will be a lot of questions that can't get answered. So for the time being, the escalation process is you can send an email to hubsupport@mozilla.com and then we can send one of our community members in, or we can come in to answer or direct the person to GitHub discussions, depending on the situation. This is still kind of being worked out exactly what the flow will be like, but for now, hubsupport@mozilla.com will be the place to go. And that's it. So thank you again for having me. I've got some time now for Q&A. And then if you do want to find out more about cool stuff happening on Hubs, you can join our Discord community, which I linked to on the previous page, or you can check out our Twitter. I've got my personal contact here if you did want to reach out. Oh, I had one other thing I wanted to say. I've lost it, but maybe it'll come up during the QA time. But I'm just so happy to be able to share this with you. Oh, I know. We're going to actually have like a meeting. We're going to have some time to jump over into Hubs if anyone wants to like pop in and play with it a little bit and ask me any questions. So right after this meeting is done, we'll jump over there.
Does anybody have a question? Oh,
I
go
sure
ahead,
do.
JR.
Yeah, so I was just thinking about this, and this may not be a thing that actually works at all or should work at all, but I am just curious. Would you be able to join Zoom, share your screen, and go into a Hubs browser, go into the Hubs on a browser and see inside the Hubs room?
So join, okay, yes, you can totally do that. I want to like think through this process for a second because it's not super straightforward. How do I stop sharing my screen here? 1 second, I want to see your faces. Okay, well, anyways. So you wanted to jump into a Zoom room or a Hubs room and then stream that into Zoom?
Yeah, essentially. So like, in Zoom, you can share your screen and you can share browsers, right? Like, so if you have a browser open up just that window. Since Hubs is within a browser, I'm assuming that you can open a Hubs like room and then share that browser screen in Zoom, and then people on that Zoom meeting would be able to see into that room with you.
Yeah, so like if I create a room right now and jump into it, you'll be able to see, I believe, into that room. I could even, I was getting really creative when there were still the in-person meetings happening for the Monday project calls and like actually streaming in a Zoom feed or like a Hubs, like a feed of a Hubs room, like as my avatar or into Zoom as like my camera. But yeah, if you wanted to just share a Hubs room into Zoom, you could do like a screen share and share it. I have not optimized this screen share for video. So that's one of the important things is there's like a little toggle that you can do. If you press that, then it'll make it a little bit smoother. So right now it might be a little bit choppy, but yeah, you can see me navigating around the room a little bit, or you should be able to. And yeah, so this is like, there's the share link at the top. You can also bring in different 3D models and stuff. We have a lot of fun with these. So if I wanted to bring a cat into the space, I can. Should show up any moment. Yeah, so I've got my 3D cat and I can pick it up and play with it and throw it somewhere if I want. I've got lots of different user settings in the drop-down preferences menu. I can go to set name and avatar to be able to pick out a new avatar. And I'll show you the scenes as well because they're pretty cool to explore. See, I'm still the fox. So these are my avatars that I've copied into my account, but we also have featured ones. And a lot of these are created by community members as well. and my computer's just a little bit laggy because it's a little bit much. You can bring in Minecraft skins as avatars. So that's what some of these are, the Among Us looking ones. And then I wanted to show some of the different scenes that you can also choose. So if I go to choose a scene, it'll show you some of the different environments that you can pick from.
There's a SUMO one in there somewhere.
Oh yeah, there is.
There's a SUMO one. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for creating and sharing that one. I know that I think Paul, you'd asked for it to be not shared because there are some little bugs with it, but I love that room and we see a lot of events happening in there.
Okay.
So anyways, there's a lot. And I find personally from my experiences using hubs that the environment that you're in really changes the tone of the meeting because people often kind of match it. So like if you're in an office, it'll be a more professional meeting. But if you go to like a Halloween scene, people might start, you make jokes about things that are related to Halloween and stuff. And it's pretty fun.
Awesome. Thank you for showing us that. That's really great.
Does anyone else have any questions?
I've seen a question. You can show you how can we invite the other people to meetings? I don't know, share a link, a code.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So all you have to do is either copy the URL.
Yeah.
So the URL can just be copied and then you can email it to your friends, or you can click on the share button here. And there is a link that's a bit shorter, so it's a bit easier for people to get into. And there's also, if folks wanted to jump in, you're more than welcome.
Awesome.
And yeah, there's also these codes. So these short codes are only good for 72 hours, but they're kind of nice if you're coming in on a VR headset, because I don't know if any of you have ever typed in VR, but typing in VR is a drag. And so this helps to make it a little bit shorter. It's like hunt and peck.
Okay, can you share that link in the chat so that we can just
sure.
use the room after
Yeah,
this?
we'll just use this one.
Yeah.
Yay.
Is that the Halloween room?
Yeah, that's one of the Halloween ones that we built. Let's see.
Cool.
Oh, here we go. Oh my God, I'm so bad with Zoom. This is like it's super embarrassing. I never, ever, ever. Our team meets like so frequently and it's always in hubs. So I can do everything really advanced there. So yeah, if folks wanted to jump in there, they can.
Cool. Does anybody else have any question for Elgin?
I think I got one if you can hear me.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Sure, go ahead, Noah.
Besides hubs looking really awesome, and it looks like it's 100% free. Do you guys have any plans to monetize it? Like, is there any products that are going to get monetized for this?
That's an amazing question. And I'm really glad you asked because I actually forgot to mention that. So that's what Hubs Cloud is for us. So if you recall, I mentioned that you can on AWS set up a server that's got your own instance of it. And what that lets you do is it gives you like advanced customizations and like you can add your own branding. But one of the other things is that a portion of the proceeds earned from the AWS servers actually comes back to Mozilla. So it is earning money through that. We are exploring different options for how we can, like what we could potentially do to make money off of the kind of free version that we've got right now. Like there's no plans on doing any like changes to what's available free, but there might be some enhancements that get added in the next little while that maybe are paid for, like maybe I'm just spitballing ideas, but like some of the things we talked about is like being able to have your own custom slug, maybe like, so the end of the URL would be customizable. Or, maybe having some advanced room management features. So we get asked sometimes for like certain types of analytics or premium access to certain things. So these are ideas that we've been toying with, and I don't know exactly what direction we're going to go. We're doing some like business explorations right now to figure out like what that could look like.
Awesome, thanks. I was just thinking that I lost my train of thought too now.
And I see that folks, if you have gone into the hub room, super cool. I think most of you have figured out that to move around, you can use the W, A, S, and D keys. You can also right click to teleport into different places.
I've got a couple of questions.
Yes.
how is the transition happening between the existing support structure on Discord over to SUMO? Is it sort of a message going up, or at a certain point in time, or how's that going to happen?
Yeah, that's a super good question. To save the ears of the people that are in this room, because I just realized that the folks who are inside of Hubs, they might have some background music. I'm just going to change the scene, so and then I will answer that question. But let's go over to this space. This one will be quiet. Okay, yeah, so what's the transition like? So for the last few months, we've had a Discord notification that every time someone asks a question, there's been an automatic response being like, hey, just so you know, we're phasing out support on Discord. Go here to GitHub discussions to ask questions. And this week, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be sharing a message with folks that basically says, like, if you've got a general question, head to SUMO to support to check it out. And if you've got like a technical question, go to GitHub discussions. So the community is expecting to be moving off of Discord. We are going to be shutting down the Discord channels, but they're not going to be like, there might be some residual like conversations happening because we're not going to like close them entirely. We're just going to rename them and we're going to say we don't like, this isn't support that we're going to be paying attention to, and the dev team's just going to start like ignoring those channels, but the community will still be able to have discussions in that area if they wanted to. I hope that answers your question.
No, thank you. Just like I said, just because at the moment we've seen the forum be set up, but we haven't had anybody come through that I've seen as yet. Just knowing when that was going to start.
I haven't started pushing yet. I've got some text that I'm just going to bounce off my colleagues today, and I think we're going to start doing that process of moving over, but I think it might take a little while. I can also see a future where people jump over to GitHub discussions to answer even general questions as well too, so I don't know how quickly people will start taking up support at Mozilla.
Okay. The other question I had was around the nature of the audience of the people that will be asking us questions.
Yeah.
Putting aside Hubs Cloud and in terms of the more general Hubs audience, how much of that do you think is sort of corporate institutions and how much of that is individuals?
That's such a good question. So it's a mix of both. However, you know what, to be honest, like there are a lot of folks who are doing like kind of research for how this could be useful for their company, but they're coming in more just to kind of play with it at first. So I would say that it's mostly individuals. Generally, I find the tech literacy is fairly good amongst them too. We have a very like our tone that we strike with our people in our community is very casual, sort of friendly tone. And yeah, I find that usually people have some familiar, like to be exploring the space, they need to already be kind of like a little tech savvy. There are occasionally, one thing that does come up is that sometimes people have no experience with video games and then they don't discover the WASD controls very easily or naturally. So that might be one challenge that might come up with a lot of folks, but anyways.
Okay, no, thank you very much. Okay.
Cool. I'm conscious of time. We only have like, I think 7 minutes left. So if you have further question for Elgin, you know where to find her. And I think we're going to proceed with the remaining topics that I'm trying to speed up. So first of all, Firefox 83 SUMO Sprint. Today is the release week, and if Firefox 83, like Firefox 82, we're going to do a, like a similar type of SUMO Sprint, like the previous version. So I have prepared a wiki for this sprint, and you can check the changes and like stuff related to Firefox 80. Basically, like everything you need to know about Firefox 80 is on a wiki, and JR is going to talk more about that. But I also want to talk about the community meeting updates, which basically the reason why we meet at this time again. But basically, with the experiments that we tried in the two community meetings, in the past two community meetings, I think that it didn't work for a lot of people. So at the 2 meeting, I think it's only one who came. It's Alom. So I think it's better to just move the meeting to the original schedule. But the thing is that we're going to experiment with another change, which basically, as you know, this is going to be a 45 minutes call. And also, I think we're going to change the cadence as well, for only once a month. So we're going to have one more meeting for the remaining of 2020 in December, and that's going to be on the, I believe, 18 or like 12 or something. But we're going to have Chris Mills from the MDN team who is going to talk about MDN updates. So it's already settled. And then the community tagging experiment, this is really quick. This is an experiment that we are going to try. We haven't got any details yet, but the thing is that we're just trying to improve our reporting. And one of the things that we want to improve is also from the tagging perspective. So as you know, we only got like a few detail in our tagging. So with this experiment, we're going to try to see if we can kind of like add more in-depth insights into the tagging so that we can also report to the product team. With that, I would over the Zoom room to JR to talk more about Firefox 83 and the Flash end of life.
Sure. So there's a couple of things to talk about here. As you all know, Firefox for desktop 83 and Firefox for Android both went out earlier this week on Tuesday. And so those are both live, and some of the experiments that or some of the communications rather that are coming out in this one were for Flash end of life. So you may or may not know at this point that Adobe is no longer going to be supporting Flash. And because of that, we're also going to stop being able to support Flash on the Firefox products moving into the future. Now, that's not actually happening yet, but the comms for that did go out with the Firefox 83 release. So we did have a blog post and put out some public comms on the net to let people know that we will stop supporting Flash in Firefox 85. So this is going to be the release that happens in January. So yeah, that's going on. If you get questions about that, then the obvious answer here is that we can't really support it any longer in Firefox 85 because Flash no longer supports it. So it just kind of makes it impossible for us to update it and keep up with it. So that's something that's happening. And if you have any questions about that, definitely ping me or ping Kiki and we can catch up there. Some of the other things that came out in desktop 83 or Firefox 83 rather is there's a quantum bar experiment happening right now, and there's a top sites experiment happening right now. So there's phase 2 of quantum bar, which is just kind of improvements to the vertical search and preference flip. So essentially just makes it a bit easier to search a specific directory. Or a specific site. So Amazon is a good example. If you type in Amazon.com and then either click tab or hit down, it'll search the Amazon website with whatever you put in the search bar after that. And so it's a really neat, kind of useful tool if you're searching a specific site for things. Amazon is obviously one of the biggest ones supported right now, so definitely check that out. And then there's the top sites experiment that's happening right now where they're essentially adding suggestions to the top sites to see what kind of presence that they can have in the top sites bar and like see if people actually click on the suggestions or just keep to their own top sites and things of that nature. So that's another experiment that's happening right now. So if you see people asking about it or have questions about it, particularly issues, then definitely clue me in and clue Kiki in so that we can make sure that that is communicated back to those product teams. Another thing to call out here in upcoming releases is going to be the Mozilla VPN. In December, the middle of December, on the 15th, they're going to be releasing the Mac and Linux version of the VPN product. So those will become publicly available on those dates, and we expect to see a pretty significant increase in volume just of users on the product, which could generate more questions in the forum, obviously. So that's something to keep an eye out. In terms of releases, the last thing to kind of let you guys know about, which I'm sure you've already seen if you've been in the forum, is the captive portal bug. So there's a bug that's happening right now that has made its way into this 83 release where users are getting a message that says they're not connected to the network and that they have to connect to the network before they can see the site. And it's kind of a banner error. It's not really an actual issue, but the banner's popping up and stopping users from being able to see certain sites and things of this nature. So it's not getting fixed in 83, but it will get fixed in 84. So that December 15th release for Firefox desktop will have a fix for this issue in that, and that's something that you guys should know about. So yeah, that's kind of the highlights of what's going on. And as always, if you do see anything sticky pop up that is affecting a lot of users or multiple users, then definitely clue myself and Kiki in so that we can make sure it's communicated properly to those product teams. Yeah, that's it for me. If anybody has questions, please shoot them my way.
Is there any question for JR?
I was just going to quickly add on the end of that there is a Firefox Android update coming out at the moment, which is expected to fix a download issue that people have been reporting. Now, we've had several people asking questions saying, why can't I download typically PDFs, but a few other file types as well? That should be fixed in this release, which is coming out in stages at the moment.
Awesome. Thanks, Paul, for that update.
Yeah, thanks for the additional information. I think we'll make it in time, and I forgot to thank Elgin, but Elgin, thank you so much for coming into this call. We will be hanging out after this in Hubs, but again, thank you so much for coming. And also thanks for everybody who is coming into our call today. I really it really makes me happy to see more people in this call. So I think it's worth the it's worth doing this at midnight my time. But to see everybody here, it's nice to see everybody here. So yeah, with this, we'll meet at the Hubs room after this with Elgin. Thanks everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks very much.
Chartreuse.